Hey guys, welcome back to the second video of the series. I've done enough talking in my previous video, so in this video let us directly jump into the implementation. So in this video we'll be covering configure network components, in which we'll be configuring security groups. We'll be creating IAM role for accessing EFS from Lambda. We'll be creating EFS, creating file system, network configuration, access points. Then we'll be creating Lambda functions, configuring the Lambda function, and finally testing the EFS. So let's just first start with the network components and security group configurations. So why do we even require security groups configuration? So one thing to keep in mind that EFS is a network storage, and we can only access EFS if we have configured VPC, and there is a specific port on which EFS listens, that 2049. So if we need our file system to integrate with Lambda, or matter of fact any other service, that service needs to be configured, has to be within the same VPC and have a security group configured to listen on port 2049. So for that, let us go to security groups tab, security groups. So here I'll go ahead and create a new security group. I'll just call it Lambda EFS, and then EFS integration with Lambda. We need to add an inbound rule here. Type in NFS 2049 anywhere, click on create security group. Great, so we have created a security group called Lambda EFS. So this was our first part. Now in order to access the EFS from Lambda function, we need to create a role as well, because Lambda function asks for a role when we create a Lambda function, and we also need permission to access file system, configure VPC. So let's just go ahead and create an IAM role as well. So for that, let's go to IAM console, go to roles. Now I have listed down few permissions which is very important for this one. So first one, we need permission for elastic file system, which is EFS. We need permission for VPC because we need to configure VPC on Lambda, and then finally we need permission to execute the Lambda. So let's just go ahead and create a new role. Select AWS service, type in Lambda, hit next, and then let's just first get the permission for Lambda. So AWS Lambda execute. Second one is Lambda VPC, AWS Lambda VPC access execution role, and last is elastic file system, and yeah, elastic file system full access. Now these are the permissions which is required by Lambda to integrate or to access file system. Let's just give it the name of Lambda EFS role. Create role. Perfect. So we have the role created. So let's just go back. So create IAM role for accessing EFS from Lambda is done. Now third step is to create EFS. So let's just search EFS here. Click on EFS. I'll create a file system. Give it a name. I'll give it as AppEFS. So here you'll be getting an option. So I've created my own custom VPC, but by default you also get an option of default VPC. So I'll go ahead and create this file system. So once this file system is created, we need to configure this file system. So open this file system. First part is to create access points. So in this access point, give it a meaningful name. I'll give it as app AP. This defaults to temp. POSIX. So POSIX, nothing. POSIX is it's a OS terminology. So in this we are basically enforcing a user identity. So every NFS, this is an NFS system. Whenever we create a new file system, it is associated by a NFS client ID. So with this POSIX user, you can actually enforce a user identity over that client ID, so it just gets bypasses. So you do not need to bother much about this one. So let's just go with a standard one. You can give any ID. I'll give it 555, group by ID 555. I'll just leave it as this. Owner ID will be same that you have created, and permission, I'll be giving full permission. So 777, if you are familiar with Linux file systems, so 777 is a full permission, read, write, execute. Hit on create access point, wait for a few seconds. Yeah, this is up. Now, this doesn't complete our hosting. So actually, so we have created file system, we have created access points. So we need to make some network configurations as well. So for that, so whenever you create a file system, by default you get subnets associated with it. So let's just go ahead and manage. So this won't be, this is actually pointing to the default VPC, but we are not we haven't configured this with a default VPC. So I'm gonna go ahead and cancel this one and select my security group. So we have created a new security group, right? Lambda EFS. I'm gonna go ahead and create, does this with Lambda EFS, hit on save button. Great. So now this file system is configured with this security group, which is Lambda EFS. So we have created a file system, network configuration is done, and access point is completed. Now, fourth step is to create a Lambda function. Now, let's just go back and create Lambda function. Go to Lambda console, create a new function, app Lambda EFS, select the runtime, select the role that you have created, AWS Lambda EFS role, create function, create. Now you have created a function. Now we have to go to file systems and hit on add a file system, and it says VPC not configured. Okay, that's fair. So in order to run any file system with the or elastic file system with Lambda function, we need to configure the VPC first. So let's just go ahead and add VPC. So this is our app VPC, and we need, so let's just choose all the subnets. Security group, we need to select Lambda EFS and hit on save button. Now we have VPC, we have subnets. It's your choice. You can even have it in a private subnet. Then in that case, you need to map these subnets with the as a mount target in the EFS as well. But for now, I have selected all the subnets. Now let's just go ahead and attach a file system. App EFS, then mount TMP, and hit on save. Okay, so this is updating. Okay, the update is complete. Let's just hit on save button again, and let's wait for this update as well. Great. So we have created a Lambda function, we have configured VPC, we have configured EFS. Now it's time to actually test our function. So this is a Lambda function. I'm gonna go ahead and start by importing OS module. Site here, I'm gonna define base path. So base path is our /mnt/tmp. After that, I'm gonna throw a print statement saying contents and contents, and here os.list directory base path. Let us deploy this and check. strange. Okay. Yep. So the code ran successfully, and there is no file inside this EFS. So our EFS is successfully mounted. Now let's just go ahead and create a file and then test. So here I'm going to create a file. So ff is equal to open, create a new file. So I'm gonna import base path and my first file.txt slash executable permissions. Now once I deploy test, great, so we have created a file and it has successfully landed on EFS storage. So this is the whole process using which we can integrate EFS with Lambda function. So this was the whole video. I hope you liked the video, and if you have any doubts, any questions, any queries, any errors related to this session, just drop a comment and I would be more than happy to assist. So hope you liked the video. Stay tuned for more such videos. Bye.